Hey, Kat here at FreeBody Massage, and I wanted to continue our conversation about back pain. So I just released a video called Understanding Back Pain and its relationship to posture and trigger points, and I'll put a link in the description for that video. But now I want to talk to you about some very interesting, more recent research about fascia and back pain. So let's talk about this for a moment. Everywhere in the body, there's fascia. Fascia is a form of connective tissue that wraps every muscle. Like every muscle lives in a little fascial bag. Fascia is your tendons and ligaments. It's the iliotibial band. Well, there's also a sheet of fascia that goes from the low back, that covers the low back, going from the pelvis up to the rib cage, and it's called the thoracolumbar fascia. The thoracolumbar fascia has two sheets that are right on top of each other, one on top of the other. This very thick, dense fascia transmits the forces of all the muscles around the low back that attach into it, which means the glutes, which means the erector spinae in the lumbar spine, which means the latissimus, which actually comes up to your arm. So the thoracolumbar fascia is transmitting force between your arm and your back and your legs. So trapezius, the lower portion of trapezius attaches into the thoracolumbar fascia. Now, new research has shown that with people with back pain, the thoracolumbar fascia has gotten thicker, and those sheets are not sliding and gliding on each other. There's dehydration. The fibers have become matted and sticky. Now, it's really interesting. So that kind of makes sense, right? So loss of mobility, the person might not be walking the same. That's going to affect the muscles, might aggravate trigger points in the muscles. Then they walk even weirder or stranger. And then it's just a sort of self-fulfilling negative feedback loop. With your clients with low back pain, you want to do some nice warming work on this thoracolumbar fascia. So basically from the lower ribs all the way down along the lumbar spine and down into the glutes. And some really nice long soothing strokes are really helpful. Partly because it's going to hydrate that area and maybe get those two layers of thoracolumbar fascia that are stuck together, might get some hydration between them so they can start sliding and moving, which will immediately decrease pain and immediately increase their mobility without even doing trigger point work, just lots of long, slow effleurage. Here's something else that is really fascinating about this thoracolumbar fascia. It turns out that with people with chronic low back pain, and that fascia is thick and matted and sticky, stuck together, and not gliding, the thoracolumbar fascia is rich with nociceptors, which are pain receptors. So along this low back sheet of thick, dense connective tissue, there are a ton of pain receptors. Now, in trigger point world, Travell and Simons published in their book those myofascial pain and dysfunction manuals, the red Bibles of trigger point therapy. They talk about the low back muscles seeming to be a target area, that a lot of muscles in the body seem to target pain into the low back muscles. Well, actually, what we're starting to understand is that maybe what it's doing is targeting pain into the fascia and not into those back paraspinal muscles at all. That actually the pain is being felt in the fascia, in the connective tissue. Not only that, not only is this area rich with pain receptors, but some other new studies have come out where they actually manufactured inflammation into the lumbar fascia of rats, poor rats. They make some inflammation, they inject some cells of inflammation, trigger inflammation. And what they found, this is amazing, get ready, this is amazing, is that the body then produced more pain receptors around the area of inflammation, right? So the body generates more pain receptors. It'll take some of the pain receptors that are meant for maybe proprioception or understanding or interoception, kind of that inner sense, and made them pain receptors. So that means that that's one of the reasons perhaps that when we have an area that is inflamed, that it becomes more sensitive to pain, because the body maybe is producing more pain receptors in that area. Why would it do that? It's about protection. Inflammation is about protection, and pain is about protection. So if an area is inflamed, that often means there's an invader or an injury. Maybe there's a little tear. And so if there's an injury there, your body wants you to feel pain in that area so you don't overdo it, so you don't continue to injure the area. If you didn't feel pain there and there was a tear, you could tear it further and further and extend that injury even more. So for some folks, feeling that kind of chronic low back pain, and that is the number one debilitating experience globally, 160 countries, the number one musculoskeletal pain is low back pain. And now the research is saying, hey, wait a minute, maybe it has to do with this thoracolumbar fascia. If there's inflammation and if there's chronic inflammation, there's going to be a big sort of uptick in the pain receptors. And wherever there's more pain receptors, there's going to be a greater potential for experiencing pain, of course. So now what we have is the thoracolumbar fascia is matted and thick and stuck together, limiting movement. We have trigger points in the muscles, in the glutes, in the lumbar spine, in the latissimus, in the trapezius. All of these muscles coming into the thoracolumbar fascia are affecting that fascia and perhaps affecting all the other muscles that attach into it. It's going to affect your client's ability to move and move well, and they might be stuck in a chronic inflammation. Now, when that tissue, those layers are stuck together and there's dehydration, anywhere that tissue is dehydrated and stuck, it means that cellular waste cannot move out. So that inflammation might just be that it's because the tissues are dehydrated, stuck together, and the waste products can't move. That stimulates dehydration, that stimulates inflammation, that triggers pain. So doing some long, slow, gliding strokes in the back, everybody loves that, right? Who doesn't want that? Those long, slow, gliding strokes, you actually might be moving inflammation out of the body, out of those tissues, freeing that binding and shifting off that inflammatory response. Oh, it's so good and so fascinating, right? So the tissues get stuck together, they get matted, dehydration happens, triggers more inflammation, and triggers pain receptors being added to the area to make the area more sensitive. So I really encourage you, when you are working with people with low back pain, to really do a lot of that long, slow flushing effleurage. It can be real slow. It can be deep, it can start out really superficial and then get a little deeper. Include some strokes around the glutes, include full all the way from the shoulders and the neck all the way down through, because that trapezius, which attaches up at the base of the skull, comes down and attaches into it, interweaves into that thoracolumbar fascia. Go up the sides and the lats, kind of free that. Working through those glutes, the obliques attach into the thoracolumbar fascia to help balance that pull and to free up that tissue so it can be more hydrated, less inflamed, and your clients will experience less pain. So I'm writing a book called FreeBody, Understanding Pain, Fascia, Trigger Points, Stress, and how that activates tension in the body and pain in the body. And I was reading these studies and I just thought, gosh, I bet more folks would love to know about that. So I really trust that this video has, given you some more things to think about and some more ideas about your working with your clients with chronic low back pain. Drop a comment, let me know what you think about it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.